Do you want to discover how you can treat your content like the top TV talk shows, where through the power of segmenting your content, you can create a whole new world of content and potentially reach a much bigger audience? If this sounds good, you're going to love this week's episode. You're listening to the Content 10x podcast, where it's all about content repurposing. I'm Amy Woods, and I'm here to help you maximize your content and find smart ways to get your message in front of more of the right people, whilst also saving time. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Content 10x podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, founder and CEO of content repurposing agency Content 10x. And this week, we're talking all about content segmenting and how it can help you immensely with your content repurposing. We're actually diving into the Content 10x podcast vault and sharing one of our previous episodes. So don't say we don't practice what we preach, because this is repurposing in action. Now, we first shared this episode in 2020, so if you're a long-time listener, you may remember it, but we thought it was so valuable that it's worth sharing again. It's all about the power of segmenting your content, how to optimize your repurposing process, and what TV talk shows can teach you about content segmenting and repurposing. Now, you might even call segmenting the secret weapon behind speedy content repurposing. It's an episode that stood the test of time. I'm sure you'll get a lot of value from it. So without further ado, let's step into the vault and take it back to 2020. This week's episode is all about giving you some top tips on segmenting your content in such a way that you can repurpose strategically and create individual new series and segments of content that can stand alone and even reach and grow a totally new and different audience. Now, I'm going to explain what I mean by this by sharing a little story. So the other weekend, on a Sunday morning, I was lazing in bed and I took a look at my phone, like you do in the morning sometimes, which you shouldn't really. It's not the first thing you should do. But I was looking at my phone. On Instagram, I saw this funny video with James Cordon, and it was taken from his show, The Late Late Show on CBS in the US. And it was a video of this absolutely hilarious wind-up that they did on his talk show, on The Late Late Show, where they wound up David Beckham. Now, Los Angeles Galaxy were honouring David Beckham with a statue outside the stadium, and James Corden and his team made this really intricate plan to prank David. So basically, they swapped out the statue that was going to go outside the stadium, and they put in this absolutely hilarious statue that looked nothing like David whatsoever. It was really, really bad, and it was just this big prank on him to see how he reacted. And I was laughing so hard. I had tears kind of just rolling down my face, and I'm going to share this video in the show notes so you can see how funny it is. But I got a taste for watching pranks and skits on The Late Late Show, and I went down this rabbit hole and I watched prank after prank on IGTV, and then I went over to their YouTube channel where they had all the rest of these pranks that they played on other celebrities, and it made me think about what these shows do. Because although I was loving watching this content on IGTV and then on YouTube, the content wasn't created specifically for those channels. It was part of the overall show. So they record the show and it goes out onto the TV channels, but they break it down into all of these segments, and the segments take on a life of their own. So another example of this from the same show, so from The Late Late Show with James Corden, is carpool karaoke. I'm sure most people have seen this, but it's a great segment that they take from The Late Late Show and then they have shared on social media. So if they share this on YouTube, it has its own YouTube playlist, and you can go and watch all of these individual carpool karaokes. Or I don't know if it's the same in other countries, but in the UK, there's even a carpool karaoke separate TV show where you just watch the carpool karaoke. Now, if you haven't seen this, it's just this section where James interviews a guest in his car. They do this whole play on how he's going to be in a rush to get to work and he wants to go in the carpool lane and he needs somebody to ride with him. And then he has these awesome guests that come on and they chat and they sing songs, which is the karaoke bit. They sing their own songs, and it's just a different play on an interview. He's had Justin Bieber on, he's had Paul McCartney, Will Smith, Ed Sheeran, Lady Gaga, Stevie Wonder, so loads of these guests, but it's part of the Late Late Show, but then it's taken on this whole life of its own with all the different places that they've stripped it from the show, and you can watch it in a different way. And there's loads of other shows that have a similar approach to this. So in the UK, we have a TV show called Ant and Dec Saturday Night Takeaway, which I'm sure anyone in the UK has probably seen a little bit of this, even if you don't like it. And they do exactly the same. They have segments where they wind up celebrities. It's called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Your Ear. And each one of those segments is a special playlist on their YouTube channel. And it's so funny. I will go to their YouTube and watch these I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Your Ear, but I don't necessarily watch the full TV show. And the Ellen Show are so good at doing this as well. Now, I think it's a genius approach because it's breaking down your long form content. So in these examples, the TV show is the long form example of the TV episode, which I know likely you don't have necessarily a primetime TV show, but you can compare this approach to your live streams, to your videos, to your podcast episodes by breaking down how you create your content and creating separate, shareable and marketable segments. Then those separate marketable segments that you create become new content to share in different places. So in this case on YouTube and on social media, but people love and praise those segments. So you're creating segments that do take on a life of their own as well and can live separately and grow a different audience separate to the longer form content. For example, some people only watch them. Full disclosure, I've probably seen every single carpool karaoke, but I don't think I've ever seen a full episode of The Late Late Show. But does that really matter? If they love the content in its own right, then does that really matter? Creating your content like this can be a real winner because you are attracting new people and a bigger audience and still establishing your authority and your brand in the way that people like to consume content. So coming back to The Late Late Show, just as an example, some people don't like to watch chat shows, but they love watching short form humour. So it's a bit for everyone, and that is fine. But what are the benefits of you doing this? So coming back to the content creator, the podcaster, the live streamer, the blogger, the video content creator. And I think there are some really big benefits. Firstly, the content creation process. It will help you have a repeatable structure in how you create your content. If you have a way that you segment your content, then you can set up processes and systems, and you will always know how you are going to create and put your content together by putting together those different segments, so it can really help with the creation process. Now, second, it can be really engaging for your audience, for the listener, for the viewer, for the reader. Segments help you to change gears, and this is such a great way to keep your audience engaged. Now, third, people love to know what's to come. It's true that we like structure. If you think about the radio shows that we always used to listen to, and maybe you still do, but something I always remember is that they had segments and you knew what was coming. So I always remember when we used to listen to the radio when I was working in an office job many years ago, and I almost switched my tasks and changed gears with the job and what I did based on the segments of the radio show we used to listen to. So I always remember when it was the top 10 at 10 in the morning. Firstly, it was a conversation in the office because we were all guessing what would be number one that year, and that was the time when I got up and made everybody in the office a cup of tea. We all love this, we love the structure, and we knew what was coming. Sometimes I think when podcasts have this kind of familiar segmenting, there's almost a nostalgic feeling when the podcasts are put together in that radio style segmenting, and you can do this with videos as well and with live streams too. Just a quick break from this episode to let you know about our new podcast, B2B Content Strategist. I sit down with content marketing leaders and have fascinating conversations about how they run their organization's content engine. Each episode in season 1 is a behind the scenes look into the content marketing processes for B2B tech businesses. We've had awesome feedback for the show. You can find B2B Content Strategist on all podcasting apps and on the Content 10x website. Check it out after this episode. Right, let's get back to it. The next benefit of creating your content in segments is that it makes repurposing a breeze. So you will establish a repurposing process that can be followed every single time. And if you think about it, if you work with a team or you have a VA working with you, or you work with a business like ours at Content 10X, you know that they will be able to repurpose your content perfectly if you have different segments within your content, and those segments are treated the same way every time you create the content. So again, it's about creating those processes and then building in these repurposing processes, and it being really simple and easy to follow every week because it is the same segments being treated in the same way. And another benefit to talk about here as well is repurposing segments means that you have new consistent content elsewhere as well. So it's not just about being consistent with the long form content that you're putting out there, but when you have these segments and that they consistently go out in their place too, then that is something that people become really familiar with and look forward to as well. Just like Carpool Karaoke comes out of the Late Late Show, but it's consistently going on to the different channels, and people will really look forward to that content as a standalone piece of content. So there really are endless ways that you could structure a podcast or a video show or a live stream, etc., for segments, and then for having a really great repurposing plan with regards to those segments. So for example, let's say you have a podcast. How could you segment it? Especially if you have a long, let's say 1 hour guest interview show, you have your intro music, then you'd usually have your introduction to the show, then often you'd put in the main aspect, so the guest interview, and then your outro music. And that's often what people do. But what could we do to bring in some segments to change the gears of the show and get people used to these different segments of the show? So you could add a quick fire round with the guest, a fun quick fire, same question for each guest every time, and then you strip out that quick fire round and you share that as an audiogram every week or a video teaser every week onto your social media. You could add in a segment where you have some industry news that you talk about, so it could be a spotlight of the week or news story of the week, and that could come in at a certain point in every episode. You could have a tip of the week, so that could also become a tweet of the week as well, and a Insta post or Insta story of the week, but some kind of tip of the week segment. Could do a podcast review readout. So I like to listen to The Model Health Show by Sean Stevenson, and he always has a segment of his show where it's a voice recording of somebody's podcast review, and you could then take that and share that as separate audio, share that as an audiogram or as a video teaser if you have it as a video as well on social media. You could have a Patreon of the week. So let's say your podcast is supported by Patreon supporters. Then you could invite one Patreon each week to have a quick 5-minute chat with you, or just give them a shout out and let people know a little bit more of them. So offer them a little bit of promotion, and again, then break that segment out, and that could go on to your social media or your website, wherever seems appropriate. You have the great find of the week or the discovery of the week. So I know Social Media Examiner do this on their podcast, where they share a find of the week, like a tool or a service or something that would really benefit their audience. So that could be a great segment of the show. You could have a competition of the week. So ask a question and get people to tweet their response, and you'll choose a tweet, or you'll choose the most interesting tweet response and pick a winner at random. So something where you get people to engage with you on social through a segment of your content. Now, I'm assuming that in this example, the podcast is pre-recorded, but if it was a live podcast, so let's say you live stream your podcast on Facebook Live and then put that out as a podcast episode 2, then you could have a live Q&A as well. So you could start introducing some live aspects to your live stream, and it would double up as a live stream and a podcast episode with all of these different aspects of audience engagement that could become your segmenting as well. So really, there's just lots to think through here in terms of the benefits of having a formula for your long form content, where you have segments that people will grow to, look forward to and love, and those segments can then be the sections of your show that you strip out of your long form and share in other places. So share on social media, share on YouTube, and you may get a whole new audience that actually love and follow your segments and maybe don't follow the long form or don't follow it at first, but then through loving those segments they move over to your long form content. But either way, as long as you are clear on your strategy with your content and you know that you are going to get value from people consuming content, whether it's in the long form or whether it's in the short form, but there's a strategy behind it all for helping you to grow your personal brand, grow your influence, establish your authority, and ultimately convert people to come and work with you if you are creating content for business purposes. Okay, so I hope this show has been really useful to you this week. I've certainly enjoyed recording it. If you haven't got a copy yet, then please do get a copy of my book. It's called Content 10x, More Content, Less Time, Maximum Results, and it is the ultimate guide to repurposing every type of content. And also, if you are interested in having us help you and actually do all of your repurposing for you, then do check out our fully end-to-end content repurposing services here at Content 10x. Head to content10x.com where you'll find information about all of our services as well as our book, our toolkit and our blog as well. And do give me a follow on social media. You can find me at Content10x on all the social media platforms. Thank you so much for listening to this throwback episode. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it really valuable. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode, so stay tuned for that. And remember to check out our other podcast as well, B2B Content Strategist, for wonderful content marketing interviews. If you aren't following us on social media, then please do. We're at Content 10x on all of the social media platforms. All that's left to say is thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.